my wife got me these Crush Your Goals 40 super inspiring quote cards. And my son's girlfriend had a really good idea that I should do one of these at the beginning of each of my YouTube videos. Opening up the box here. First quote: "The only way to get a thing done is to start to do it, then keep on doing it, and finally you'll finish it." By Langston Hughes in the Big C. Back out in the garage again, finally working on the Mustang. I got some stuff pushed out of the way here, got the bikes pushed out of the way, got the Norton pushed out of the way. As you can see, the Volkswagen's out of here now. My son has that up at school. We sold his other daily driver, so now I finally got a weekend to myself where I can actually concentrate on the Mustang. After going through all my stuff earlier this year with my surgery and then with the high school mountain bike team, that keeps me pretty busy through the fall. So I'm finally back out here working on this again, and I wanted to get going when I had a whole weekend just to work on it. So you can see, well, one of the first instructions is get all the brake lines off, the fuel lines off, all that stuff. But as you know, this car is pretty well stripped down, doesn't have that stuff. So I said the next step was to mask off the interior. I don't have any like clear plastic or anything, so I got all these old curtains that I used as basically drop clouds. I got a bunch of stuff hung, so it's kind of covering up the dash here, covering up my quarter panels. The back window's still exposed, but hopefully it's not going to make so many sparks that it's going to be shooting up there. And hopefully it's not flying up and starting the headliner on fire or something silly like that. Gonna go from there. So this is the last time we'll be seeing the floor in its entirety. So I'm just gonna start going through the instructions. I'm not gonna step through the instructions. If you need to, you can check out the instructions. There's a pretty nice video right on Detroit Speed Engineering's YouTube channel about how to install these. So I'll just kind of show you my progress, what I'm having luck with, what I'm not having luck with, and go from there. Quick little update. So it gave instructions to go off of this channel here in the floor and draw a line in the sound deadener, an inch on each side, and then cut it, and then you're supposed to peel it out. And on the videos and everything, it shows them. On the Detroit Speed Engineering video, they're basically going after this stuff with like a hammer and a chisel, pounding it off. But I went to peel this up off the floor, and there's a few pieces here. But I went to grab it, and like this first piece just popped right off, like by hand. So then I gave that a shot. Then I grabbed the part where I had sliced on both sides, and just popped right off the floor. So, and I don't know if I mentioned it before, this was a flood damaged car, so you can see like in the seat support there's some dirt and stuff in there. And back here on the floor, it's looked worse than I thought it was, but it was mostly I think just some surface bubbling. So I think I'm gonna just take all this sound deadener off after all. Pop it all off the floor here, everything that's down here on the floor itself. The stuff that's up on the hump for the drive shaft, I don't think I'm going to worry about. Then maybe this stuff in the back too, I might pop that stuff out of here eventually and just clean this whole floor up. But it seems like I don't think I'll have to worry about this stuff too much, but just after seeing this in this little run here, how nasty that looks, and you can see a little bit of surface rust there, but it just seems like it's gonna need a little cleaning up. So, and I figure I'll just pop all this off, and if I need to, I'll put some sound deadener back in here. But you know, race car, maybe it won't get any sound deadener in it, so time will tell. Think about it a little more. That's down the road, but first things first, get the sound deadener off the floor and start putting some marks on here for where I need to do the cutting. You can kind of see it there. I got all the sound deadener off of this side. Got the seam sealer kind of busted out of the corners. It said to do that in the instructions. So At least that's what I thought anyway. We got the seam sealer out of this corner here too, and along this edge, and then the sound deadener off of the vertical drop off here for the rear seat. So that's where I'm at for the night. I think the next thing I need to do is start marking up the floor, marking up the little seat hump here, and cut a section out of here and cut that 2-inch strip through there, and yeah, go from there. So got everything pretty well cleaned out in here. I ended up taking pretty much all the sound deadener out, except for some stuff right up there on that toe well that was kind of stuck to the floor pretty good, so I'm not too concerned about that. But I have most of this out. Like I said, it was a flood damaged car, so it looks like there's a bunch of dust and dirt underneath in those channels in the floor pan there. Notice there is a little rust bubbling up on here, but looks like everything so far I've just kind of knocked off, like it's surface rust. So hopefully that's all pretty good and solid. I did some bang, or kind of some popping around on it with the handle of the hammer just to make sure it didn't like push through the floor or something silly like that. So got everything all cleaned out, vacuumed out now. So now I'm ready to start putting some marks on the floor, and probably gonna be cutting here pretty soon. Thought I'd show some of my progress. I've been out here for a couple hours, maybe not quite a couple hours, but spending my time, taking my time digging into this. So I have it marked off back to here. Cut through that top layer just from that toe panel back to about there, and just working on getting stuff out of here, like this piece. Making a mess. So just kind of thought I'd show some what progress I've made so far, and just kind of taking my time actually following the instructions and reading them, making marks, doing the cuts like it said. So all right, I thought I'd show something here. So in the instructions it shows like there's nothing here in this frame rail, and mine's got like this little bracket right here. Two little brackets. So it looks like they're just held in here and here, here and here. So it looks like it pop right out once you cut through these little spots. But all right, I thought I'd show what I've gotten done before I call it quits for the evening. So I've spent quite a few hours out here. Got this whole slot cut in the floor pan. So you see here is the back side of the front subframe. That pops right in there. Give it a couple whacks with the hammer. And that's kind of the gist of it right there. So back out in the garage again the next day, took a break overnight, hung out with the wife. So as you saw it, I left yesterday. Finally got this all trimmed out, so that front subframe connector, front section of it's fitting in there pretty well. And I got the next step done of marking out some lines from the rear of the front section to cut out to start making room for the rear section. So one more update. It's almost noon. My wife and I are big Vikings fans, so I'm gonna go in and watch the game with her. So it's kind of nice to see them having a good season and enjoy watching the game with her. But just thought I'd give you one little more update. So I think the last I showed, I had this section of the floor marked out. Well, now it's all cut out. So kind of scary for me to be digging into this. This is kind of feel like it's above my skill level, but I'm learning, enjoying doing it. And I think kind of the fear kind of plays into just wanting to do a better job. And I almost made a big boo-boo here. So you're supposed to measure 8 3/16 from this door sill or rocker panel out to where you do mark the cut. It's supposed to be 8 3/16, and as you can see here, I had a different line drawn. So instead of measuring 8 3/16, I measured 8 3/8. Luckily, I watched the Detroit Speed engineering video and kind of caught that mistake. It kind of resonated with me. I looked at the instructions again, so I had to redraw my lines up here to that front section. So there's the front section tube laying there. But so I had to kind of redraw my lines, and I think I'm sitting pretty good now. Can kind of feel the frame drop off. It's, yeah, if I would have cut to that line over there, I think it would have been too far over. I would have had more of a gap to fill. But now I think I might have a little bit of a gap on this side. We'll see how it turns out. I'll show you guys how I'm doing. But yeah, it feels like it's pretty close here. So here on the other side is the drop off for the torque box. So yeah, I might be a shade over. Might have to do a little more grinding than I had hoped to do. But still, I think if I would have cut over to that other line, it may have been a little bit too far. Right now I don't think it's far enough, but I'd rather trim some than have to fill a big old gap. But I'm afraid I might have a little bit of a gap on this side, but we'll see how it all pans out once I get that booger in there. Working on getting this rear piece of the subframe in on the passenger side, subframe connector. So here's the driver's side, just to give you an idea. So that's what the floor pan and the torque box look like before. So now this is the passenger side. So I got a slot cut all the way back in the floor pan. So here you can see this is where the rear part of the the front seat bolts in. So here's the rear floor pan, and here's the torque box now. So I followed all the instructions, got all that cut out. So there's where your rear control arm bolts in. So making some pretty good progress. A little bit spooky. Got a dog nose over here. My shop dog. He's so ferocious. And there you can see, that's kind of where I'm at right now. A lot of cutting, and I'm just trying to pound some metal around, trying to get this rear part just to fit up in here first, doing a bunch of test fitting, a little bit of grinding at a time to get that up in place. Got the slot completely cut. There was a piece of steel here welded to the inside of the frame that was kind of getting in the way, so I tried to knock that out of the way as much as I could. But what I keep running into is, I think this weld right here and here is kind of protruding a little bit. So when I put this subframe connector under here, it won't line up against this side. It's kind of cocked off this way. So I'm thinking I'll need to grind that weld down, but I'm a little apprehensive about doing that, so I'm gonna call it quits for the night. Think about it overnight. Then I think that weld is butting up right against this side of the frame rail here and kind of holding the end of it out. All right, it's a couple nights later, and I just thought I'd give an update of where I'm at. So I got the slots cut in the floor, and I have the rear one just kind of up in place. I had to do a lot of trimming back up around here to kind of get it up into place, and actually had to cut out part of the torque box here. There's a little bit of a gap between everything here. I'm wondering if I'll have to take something and fill it in. I'm tempted. There's some welds up on the side of here that I thought about maybe grinding down to see if I can get things up more flush again. That's just after the new year here now. So happy new year, everyone. Happy 2023. Hope everyone's having a good start of their year already. But I thought I'd get out here and kind of show a little status of where I'm at. So I have nothing done on the driver's side, the left side. Right side, they're just kind of held in place. The front half is just kind of hung in there. This back has just enough friction against it from the floor pan and everything that it's holding itself up in place. So it's looking pretty good. All right, so crawling under the car. Looks really good. So you can see this is the back part right here of the front frame rail or subframe connector. You can see it up in there. And this back part is looking pretty good. I kind of got a little bit of a gap here, so just from my own measuring. So I kind of got a little bit of a learning curve here and just got this all held up in place. Everything looks good. It's kind of all up in place. So everything's as close, I think. And you can kind of see up in there, kind of maybe. But there's some welds and stuff that are up against the side of the frame rail. So that's kind of holding it out there. And I got the torque box kind of cut away so that you can get the rear part in there. So what I'm dealing with now is there's a gap here between the torque box and then at the front edge too. But everything's kind of butting up where it should be, like up in this area. And then up in that torque box, you can see that it's up there. But what I'm curious about is this. This seems like more of a gap than it should be. And then also you can see I tried putting the bolt through for the front control arm, and that's supposed to line up there, and it's just off by a little bit.